So can you please give him a very warm welcome for Chris Gardiner.
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, it's great to be here talking about our journey with JSM. I joined Tennis in late 2021. So in tennis terms, we tend to describe our tenure by how many AOs we've survived. I've just recently done my second, so I'm pretty fresh in terms of tennis tenure. So I work as an infrastructure solution architect in tech operations. For the last 12 months, my prime focus has really been this migration onto a more mature IT service management platform. I've worked in IT service management for about 18 years, mostly in a consulting function and across banking and telecommunications and a bit of manufacturing. My specialties are configuration management, integration, and I have a particular interest in runbook automation and orchestration, which I'll talk you through some of the future vision around that in tennis. So to introduce tennis and what we're about, so Tennis Australia is the principal governing body for tennis across Australia. We partner with state-based tennis organisations, member associations, and just your regular neighbourhood clubs, really to promote and organise tennis at all levels. You know, we're talking from new starters, school programs, all the way up to competition elite. We oversee the provision of coaching and training programs for players across all ages and skill levels, and the management of a network of tennis facilities right across Australia. So just looking at the technology we use to manage that. So we manage and support a nationwide network of infrastructure and services really to assist those various different groups in managing and kind of promoting tennis. This includes, underpinning this is a mix of different systems and architectures, from on-prem DC-hosted legacy and bespoke applications, right through to, cutting-edge commercial cloud, and a couple of niche vendor SaaS-hosted applications, particularly around the event. So why did we choose JSM as the best product? So we did an evaluation. We didn't want anything that was too complex and onerous from a process perspective, but also wanted something that really covered all of our requirements around developing a maturing IT service management process and practice, and being able to really get people involved in that and get people to take ownership of what we were trying to do. So prior to 2018, we probably had a relatively mature IT service management practice on one of the legacy tool sets. Through attrition and the associated loss of knowledge and discipline, that all kind of fell by the wayside a wee bit in some areas, and we needed to spin up a quick help desk solution, which really, in the end, ended up only supporting very basic help desk and IT and incident management. So with a review of event operations in AO21, we identified some risks that really needed to be addressed and needed more of a comprehensive solution to support integrated incident changing configuration management. Choosing JSM was fairly simple. Tennis already used the Atlassian products in Jira software and delivery, and also for Confluence. Confluence was our documentation platform. So JSM was obviously a perfect integrated partner with that. Aligns with our strategic direction. Atlassian's a leader in the ITSM space, has good best practice alignment, and it supports TA principles of rapid IT and DevOps agile integration. It integrates with our existing stack and offers a familiar interface and experience. So getting people up to speed with how to manage an incident when they're used to managing an epic or a user story, it's pretty similar interface, so it becomes quite easy to navigate. We're also trying to drive to efficient and responsive IT. So, implementation of Asset, the CMDB introduction into the JSM product, really tick boxes for us. We want to use that to drive proactive IT so that when an incident is raised, we understand exactly what customer-facing service that impacts. We can assess, we can prioritise it appropriately, and we can actually get proactive notification out to consumers of those services. We also want it to be scalable and adaptable to meet varying needs. So Tennis is a unique sort of organisation in that 8 months of the year we run BAU, which is generally corporate support, email support, access to OneDrive and file repositories and the like. For 4 months of the year we spin up into probably 2 to 3 times the size we normally are, focusing specifically on the Summer of Tennis, which covers interstate events right across Australia, leading into the main draw AO, which of course everybody knows. As Robin mentioned before, if you've ever been to the AO, it's pretty frantic and very, very busy, huge number of people moving about the place, and obviously games, matches starting and finishing at any point in time. So we've kind of got to, we need to be very agile. We need to be able to respond very quickly and meet expectations, get things working the way that they need to work in pretty rapid fashion. So I'll talk through our implementation journey. We're pretty ambitious with the way that we do things at Tennis, and quite often things need to move from planning to delivery in a very short period of time. So we implemented the initial phase of JSM, which was really replacing our existing tool set. So as I said, it was the legacy platform supported incident management primarily, so incident was obviously the first cab off the rank. We also wanted to put in some managed change process so that we can actually be across things as and when they change the tool in Tennis. So we cut over from the legacy tool to JSM literally the 1st of November last year. So just to give you an idea of time frame, we have interstate events kicking off mid-December. So we kind of had to get a gear on and actually get things up and moving. The 1st of November is 65 days out from the AO main event. So we did a full migration of incident management, implementation of that basic change. Really wanted to pilot in this year's event a couple of key parts of the event logistics which caused us headaches in the past. So we have an event management system which manages logistics for the wider Summer of Tennis. That is built, it's an in-house application that we've built ourselves many years ago, runs on a legacy technology which tends to be a little problematic. Supported completely internally, and just to give you an idea of criticality, it is the centre point for player accreditation, visitor accreditation, access to the site, scheduling of courts, so it's a pretty key tool. The second area we wanted to focus on was our transport system. So our transport system is hosted by an offshore partner. It's also supported offshore. But this is responsible for getting players to and from their games and out to practice courts in between. So it's a pretty key part of the event. We also wanted to include our partner field techs. So as I mentioned, we run a set of interstate tournaments. Those aren't supported by Tennis people. We engage external parties to be the hands and feet on the ground. But we had an opportunity this year of centralising the support process so that there's one place to go for IT support. But we needed an efficient way of engaging those remote resources to address any issues that need hands-on attention. A target state for us is an ongoing iterative value delivery. So we really just want to implement that continuous improvement practice. So we've adopted that in our plan to deploy JSM out to its full maturity for Tennis. We have those ongoing reviews of results and metrics and how we can do things better in the next cycle. So up to the AO, this is kind of our pivotal point in the JSM journey for us. I mentioned the event support system and the transport support, those two key systems that we support for the event. And we decided to take a pretty generic approach to the way that we serve those. So we did a purpose-built service portal experience for them so that we could give them a link to click which would bring them to the specific support area for the app that they worked with primarily. The customer experience through the customer portal gave them direct connection to support. So they can log a ticket, submit the ticket, and actually communicate with IT through that ticket. So rather than needing to scrounge through hundreds of unread emails, because the event is pretty busy, to try and find out the information they need, they had one place to go. They have quick access to updates and status, so if we've done something while they've been off shift, they come onto their shift, they understand what's moved since. And there's proactive fault notifications, so if there's an issue with the EMS system, this was a mechanism of us being able to broadcast out to all of the users that, hey, we have these issues, here's a link to a workaround, we'll keep you up to date as we move through the ticket. In terms of our transport support, as I mentioned, it's supported by an overseas partner. So we also use Jira to get all of their engineers working on the ticket at once. So rather than us in previous years having to receive a ticket at Tennis, raise another ticket with the vendor group and do the back and forth communication and update, that required a Tennis person to do all of that. The direct engagement allowed an engineer to pick up a ticket in India, respond to it with a request for further information or some specific questions, and the customer being able to ask those questions and participate in that conversation directly, which fundamentally changed the support model for the transport from previous years. As I mentioned also with the interstate events, we have precinct partners. The results for them were the service desk were able to quickly triage and prioritise those interstate event tickets and assign to a person who's on shift on the ground 5 minutes walk away from that person raising the issue. The interstate event staff remain notified of updates, so again they had mobile devices kitted out with a JSM application and they could actually be receiving push notifications as the ticket moved through its life cycle. Our on-site staff connected into JSM enabled the precinct staff were able to raise tickets within JSM without needing to phone anybody, send an email to anybody. So as they were having conversations with the person who's having the issue, they can be getting a DBA back in Melbourne to look into the issue. The other thing I'll say is that the AO, is not a 9 to 5 or a 24/7 operation. It's really we're there as long as the games are being played. So I don't know if you followed the tennis much, but we had a couple of games that went into 11, 12 o'clock early hours of the morning. Operations runs for 2 hours past the end of play. So that is going to span more than one shift for a team. So one of the good things we found with consolidation of all of that information, communication, all the relevant information in one place, was shift handover was a breeze. Like we'd produce a view of all of the open tickets, how they progressed, what the current state of play is. Being able to hand that over, in a shift handover in less than 5 minutes is fantastic. All right, so what are some of the key outcomes that we saw? So had overwhelming positive feedback. So we have some of our AO staff have been doing the AO in various functions for 20 plus years. They're brought on as a casual at the beginning of the summer of tennis and they leave us to go back to their regular day job. Some of these people were saying they felt they were supported better than they had been any previous year, which was amazing. They loved the experience, they loved being able to connect with IT through a number of different mechanisms. The experience uplift was outstanding. As I mentioned, across rotating shifts and changing between teams, the ease of access and the fact that the experience was exactly the same regardless of what you were doing was very gratefully received, and really people feeling empowered to help themselves. So, with the EMS and transport applications, we had put out knowledge-based articles specifically for the team to reference there. And so the team found it really great that, through this one portal, they can go and ask a question, they can find the relevant information, try that, if that doesn't work, then get into IT all within one transaction effectively. So from an agility perspective, 87% of event tickets were resolved within 4 hours, which is like order of magnitude improvement on previous years. And it's driven somewhat by the improved information collected and really having SLAs in place to really understand as an operator when I'm picking up a ticket, how long has this ticket been there, how long do we have to resolve it? So a bit more of a proactive management approach there. And for service availability, so all changes were managed through the event. We put in place a formalised change management process which allowed us to really implement without any availability impacts during event time. So what's next for us? So this is kind of the first phase of the journey for tennis, and we're looking to evolve this to provide a better functionality. Some of the things that Mark touched on in his presentation earlier really grabbed my eye because that is effectively where we want to head with this service management function. So our target state is to have a year-round operating model. So we do things exactly the same whether it's event time or BAU. We want to standardise our training and onboarding model. So as I mentioned, we have casual staff come in to support the event. We want to really key them up to how to leverage this to deliver a better quality service to their players, to their fans, the people that they serve. We want to do that with a self-service mindset. So the bottleneck with our previous implementation, our previous system, was that everybody had to come up and visit IT, phone IT to try and find out where things were at and to work with IT to resolve things. We want to shift that back to the customer where they have all of the resources that they need to be able to resolve these incidents for themselves, and only really the small fraction that aren't addressed through that channel will be what IT needs to focus on. We want to also try and build in knowledge management into the way that we work. So we talked about some of the AI and chatbot, and that relies on understanding, being able to identify an issue and understanding what information is relevant to that issue. So we want to try and, the tickets that do come through to IT, our last task is to document that so that somebody can self-serve. We want to engineer for availability. So leveraging our existing monitoring technology. We talked earlier about OpsGenie and using that as a function to be able to bring that monitoring data into perspective when we're dealing with incidents and changes. And we want to set up an orchestration practice where we can look at low-value tasks that consume time from IT but are perfectly template capable, and depending on the information that's passed in, we can execute an automated action to close out the ticket. We're also working to uplift our partner engagement. I talked about transport and connecting them into our service management process. We want to take that as a default approach for all of our vendors. Really, we'd like the service management tool set to really be the central point for you to get your problem resolved, regardless of who needs to be involved in that process. That brings us to the end of the walkthrough. Thank you very much, everyone.
No, thank you. So good, right? Let's talk with two